that?
This is our new 3,000 watt inverter from Victron Energy. It's Multiplus inverter charger combo. It's heavy. So this is the bracket that mounts to the wall that the Victron sits on top of. Just pre-drill and then put these screws in. This thing is heavy.
That's it, huh? Oh yeah, there you go.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me see. Let me check my wiring diagram. Everything comes off the positive sides of the battery and goes to the switch. The switch either turns it on or turns it off. So off the positive side of the battery that sits right here goes straight to the fuse. From the fuse, it comes down into the bottom of the switch. This switch kills everything. If this fuse blows or if something bad happens downstream, everything else is protected. And then this switch shuts off the inverter, and it also shuts off the panel feed to the DC side of the panel.
So what are those bars?
These are the bus bars. This one's the negative bus bar. This one's the positive bus bar. These come from the battery. This is the positive. This one actually goes to the inverter, but with the terminal and the heat shrink, this is the diameter of the stud that's on our inverter. I've got larger 3/8 studs that fit on the bus bars. So everything kind of goes to here and then splits out from the bus bars. The bus bars are a high 600 amp, basically a landing place for all the wires to go to, so that you don't end up with 5 or 6 wires coming off the top of the battery. So basically the only things coming off the top of the battery are going to be the cables that join all 5 of the batteries together. Then from there, everything goes to these terminal blocks, the bus bars, and from there they get distributed out. The alternator power feeds charging to the batteries through the bus bar. The panel feed comes off the positive side to the panel feed. Same with the negative. One negative goes all the way to the engine block at the starter and bolts to the basically the engine ground is what grounds the entire system. So the shunt, I shoved this thing way back in here, but the shunt goes to the little Victron. I think it's like a BMV 700.
What is that?
Battery monitor. What it does is once you program it in, you start with a fresh set of batteries, you program in all your parameters, how much you charge, how much you discharge. It tracks amp hours based on total capacity, and then it tells you how much charge you have left in your battery, when you need to recharge your batteries, and how many cycles you've counted between charge and discharge cycles. So it's like a tracking system. Alright, so now I'm hooking up with the Victron. I'm taking the shore power cord, coming in overhead to a double breaker, and you have to have a double breaker if you're within 10 feet or in excess of 10 feet to your shore power connection. So I'm going to go hook this up. These wires get hooked up into the Victron, and I'm going to finish this connection to the double breaker here. Everything's dead. I've already killed the shore power. So hot, neutral, go to the breakers. The ground is a continuous ground that goes all the way through to the panel and to the Victron inverter. So then this thing has a weather tight coupler that keep everything nice and straight and tidy and make sure everything looks good. So this goes up. just feed it up. And from here, I gotta just kind of neaten it up a little bit. So I'm using number 10 wire. Number 10 is shore power. It's amp rated. So it should be, I mean, that's good for 30 amps. And then I gotta strip and clip, shorten these up, land them on the terminals here on the inverter. Okay. Line. Hey, look at that. There it is. Tighten the screw. These have a little clamp thing in them where the screw bites down on a terminal clamp. This is the AC in. So, you know, and the panel's really nicely labeled. I mean, everything in this. I like this Victron unit. I'm really pretty stoked. And there's ground. So the whole unit, and also, not only is the battery set up to, you know, positive, negative to the battery charger, there's also a ground wire that bonds it to the engine ground. So once shore power cord's plugged back in, you fire up this breaker, this goes to here. Still got to run one more line to the main panel. Alright, so now I'm hooking up the main AC input to the panel. This comes from the inverter charger through the breaker into the charger and back out to the main DC panel and AC as well. There we go. AC power in, boom, done. These are the 5 lithium batteries all hooked together, and so we're pulling power off at this end. The positive side comes off of one end and the negative side comes off the other end. So here's the inverter up and running. Right now it is in float mode. So it's filled up the batteries all the way. The batteries are sitting at probably 95%. And once it goes into that float mode, it holds it at about 13 1/4, like 13.2 volts. Batteries are all hooked up. So this is the Victron battery monitor. It tells us what's going on with our battery banks. We've got, we're sitting at 13.16 volts right now. There's about 0.15 amp hour, or 0.15 amp outflow, minus 0.3 watts. 26 amp hours total coming out of the bank, and the batteries are sitting at 95.2% capacity, and that just shows that the charger has an inflow of voltage into it to match the slight bit of outflow we have right now. This is the positive bus bar, and all the positive wires land here, and this has a protective cover cap to keep in case something falls on it, keeps it from shorting out.
Did you move the negative bus bar? It was there.
Yeah, I actually, the negative bus bar actually worked out better down at that end.
And that one doesn't have a protector.
Doesn't need a protector.
Okay.
It won't short out.
And then this is the fuse?
Yeah, this is a 400 amp big boy. That's the on-off battery switch that kills everything downstream of the fuse. I cut new braces coming across here because this was laid out a little differently. So I cut new mahogany supports to go in here to allow access. And then I made a couple of new split lids that give access to the inside of the battery box. I've still got to make my plastic caps that go over the hot terminal, but I've got some formable meltable plastic that you can you put in hot water and you can make pretty much anything out of it. So the last thing I have to do is get the old batteries out of the engine room and get the alternator feed hooked up to the positive bus bar. And the starter. The starter's still coming off the old batteries, the old lead acid battery bank right now. So finish that up, run the cable. I've got a little bit of extra cable, should make it, and that'll be that. But right now we're running off of 500 amp hours of lithium batteries, and we've actually had a couple of power interruptions, and we've been able to switch over to the inverter and use the inverter to keep things running, like the heater and the water heater and things like that, until the power comes back on.
Refrigerator.
Yeah, the fridge comes off the DC side. Cut.